scrapyard to the stars. We build our hot rods and racing cars. Racing legends come alive. In this metal we revive. From the track strip to the street, this addiction makes our life complete. Drag and drive ain't just for show. It's the pulse that makes us go. 780 speed and custom. 780 speed and custom.
Well, good morning, good evening, good night. I'm Ryan. This is 780 Speed and Custom. Appreciate you guys stopping by the channel today. Obviously, working on the Biscayne. I realize it's been 3-4 weeks since I've uploaded a video, so I apologize for that. Just been busy with life and work, you know how it is. But we're here now, and we've got lots of work to do. We are, let's see here, today is the 21st, I believe, of June. So that puts us exactly a month away from the start of Miles of Mayhem. Now, if you've been following along, you know that I'm not racing it this year. I'm trying to get this car done so I can follow along in relative comfort, film, hang out, just trying to enjoy it because the 40 is very broken and I can't afford to fix it right now. So this is going to be the option. I have, however, run into some issues. Now, the two biggest of which are the brakes and the fuel system. Fuel system, if you watched the last video when I kind of showed off the rim and tire package, as I was backing out of the garage, you could hear kind of a high-pitched squealing noise. Initially, I thought it was my fuel pump, just because it was a cheap knockoff Amazon deal I thought was going to be good enough. So I have since changed that to a billet Holley pump, mostly because it's the cheapest one I could find that had good reviews. Nobody complained about it failing right away or being loud. Hasn't solved my problem though. So I put an inline fuel gauge in to kind of figure out what's going on and verify some stuff. And now I'm leaning towards the pressure regulator. Basically, like the fuel pump has helped. It doesn't do it right away like it did with the old pump, but it does do it eventually. And, well, it has to be the regulator. Basically, when you fire up the car, that regulator is supposed to supply 58 PSI to the front. It's supplying 90 to 100 PSI. And when that noise starts, basically the louder that noise gets, the lower the fuel pressure gets. So logically it has to be that. I've got a spare regulator from the 40. I'm going to throw that in. Hopefully that solves the problem. If it does, it's going to stay there. If not, and it's cavitating, I think the only solution would be to go to an in-tank pump, which I really don't want to do because I don't want to buy another fuel pump. I don't want to modify that new tank, so on and so forth. Regardless, I'll get that figured out. All right, now I'm on V3 of the fuel system in this car. I've got the old regulator out, and I put in a newer style, same style that I've got in the 40, spare one from the 40 actually. So I've got my lines changed over. I'm ready to test this. Hopefully, I haven't adjusted it, but I didn't change it from when I was on the 40, so it should still be set at that 58, 60 PSI. So hopefully, when I prime things and fire it up, that's what we see. It doesn't drop off, we got no weird noise, and the fuel system will finally be done. Well, you're going to get the results before I do, so hopefully this is panned out. Alright, well that's definitely where it should be sitting, right at that 60 PSI, so that's obviously working good. Now I'm just going to let this thing run and heat cycle, And hopefully that gauge stays right there, doesn't move, and my noise doesn't come back. We'll know we have solved the problem. All right, well, I went through a heat cycled it a few times, and it does appear that my fuel problem is fixed now, that squealing's gone away, and fuel pressure stays steady, car runs great. So, moving on. The brake system, I had left the stock drum brakes in the rear. Now, I'm hoping my issue is that the adjusters are just old, seized, and that part of the brakes is not working, because I've bled the brake system multiple times. I've verified there's no air in this system, and still very spongy. So I figured it must be an adjustment on the booster itself with the brake pedal, so I adjusted it to where the pedal feels good, but at that point the front brakes are locked and the back ones are soft. So I do believe, I hope it is anyway, that adjuster. So I've bought new brakes. Those are not here yet, but I will replace those rear brakes. Hopefully that solves the problem. If not, it's likely something with the proportioning valve. It's a non-adjustable proportioning valve on this master cylinder kit. So I don't know what I'm going to do if that isn't it, but I'm hoping the disc brake solves the problem. I might be able to throw another proportioning valve in if it doesn't, or have to switch to discs in the rear, which I really don't want to do. So parts coming that'll hopefully fix that problem. Now, probably the biggest one that concerns me is my gauge cluster. I ordered a Dakota Digital gauge cluster April 8th. Now, I've got nothing bad to say about Dakota Digital. The products are amazing. Honestly, you're not going to find a better gauge cluster out there, bar none. Like, they are awesome. So I ordered one April 8th, and it wasn't even slated to be built until basically about this time, and then shipping and everything. It was going to be tight. So I phoned and said, hey, do you have any of these gauge clusters in stock? Which they did. So I switched my order to one of the gauge clusters that they had in stock on the 30th of April. That gauge cluster has still not shipped. So obviously, I'm sure they did have it in stock, but obviously somebody got to it before me. It's likely what happened. Unfortunately, every other day that goes by, the ship date gets pushed off. My ship date is now 22nd of July. So that puts us into the middle of Miles of Mayhem before I'd even see the cluster. Now, I've already wired the car for that specific cluster, and I'm not going to be able to get this thing inspected without gauges. So I think my temporary solution is going to be able to steal the cluster out of the 40, because it's a Dakota Digital cluster, has a similar module that wires the same way. So I'll just build a quick bracket to kind of hold that cluster in place. It's going to look absolutely horrible, but it's going to function. And that's really all I'm concerned about at this point, because I need to get this on the road and get it inspected. Those are the main problems I've got going on. The rest of the build is pretty inconsequential. I've got to button up some stuff on the interior still, seat belts, bolt the front seat in, mirrors, just little stuff. I don't have a stereo yet, but that's hard. Like, if I end up going to miles without a stereo, I'll survive. I've got earbuds and a phone, so that hardly matters. I did find some plastic, rolls of plastic here. These are 10-foot rolls, colored plastic. Got that from Speedway Motors. I'm going to use that to cover the door panels and kind of the sill behind the back seat. Mostly because I'm cheap. Those rolls are $25 US a piece. And to buy door panels for this car, I think it starts somewhere around $2,000, $2,500 US, which I'm not going to do. It's not a show car. It's never going to be a show car. I'm not putting that kind of money into the interior. So we're going with plastic door panels. It'll look better than no door panels. Still not gonna look great, but is what it is. What else do I got going on? I've got a mount. I bought a cheap reservoir from Amazon. I'm gonna use this as windshield washer reservoir. Probably mount that somewhere over here. Gonna plumb that in yet. The seats are done. Covered the base the same way that I covered the rear seats, and then I built or had help sewing on sides to the back cover for the backrest, so it'll slide over like the factory one did and tie in on the bottom with those hog rings. I've just got to put some of that plastic over the back here just to give it some support so that whoever's sitting in the back seat, this is not real great material, doesn't poke a hole or wreck the seat cover as easily. Other than that, oh yeah, steering column. That's a big one. I've got to rebuild the steering column on this thing. It's when I first picked up the car, I accidentally, the plastics are so brittle, it's sitting in the sun for 30 some years. Everything's just, you touch it and it breaks. Well, the signal lever broke, fell apart, the mechanism inside shattered. So I've got a rebuild kit coming for the steering column. Hopefully that'll be here next week because that's important. Without that, obviously I can't test the signal lights, those circuits, all that stuff's tied together. So I absolutely need that to make sure the circuits work and to get this thing inspected. Like I said, hopefully next week, but I'll get that done. I did pick up a new steering wheel for it, cheapest one I could find, short of going to like Temu. So I've got to put that all in, but obviously need that signal switch stuff to do that. Yeah, there's lots to do, but I am making progress. I'll running out of time, but there's still time, if you know what I mean. So fingers crossed. Hopefully I can get this thing buttoned up and inspected before Miles of Mayhem, and I can still take it because it's really my only option. So got to throw a wideband gauge in it so I can tune it. There's lots of little stuff, but it is all little stuff. The car runs and drives. We just got to button up the rest of this. So without further ado, I'll get to it. So obviously I've got the carpets in, floor mats, looks really good. Got the back seat in there. So I'm pretty happy with the way things are turning out so far. I've got to make holes in the carpets for the seat belts and the mounts for the front seat, and I can get that bolted in, but it's definitely come together. The kick panel in there as well. Just left that side open because I got to do a bit of work over there yet, but it's definitely coming together. So the next step for the front seat is I want to cut some more of that plastic out and build a sheet to cover this so that there's some backing here, and then I can slide that over, and it's just, the base is just going to hog ring back in here like this. Obviously the sides have a little flap on them that can lift up so I can access these bolts, and that should be the seats done anyway. So I'll get to cutting that out, and then we can put the cover on, throw it in the car. There, so I just screwed in a piece of plastic to the back of this. That's just going to give it some support so it's not just the blanket and a hollow space behind, so somebody accidentally kicks this or puts their knee into it or whatever, it's going to have a little bit of support and hopefully won't wreck the blanket. Well, the backrest of the front seat's coming together. I just hog ringed this back side here. This front flap is going to flip up and hog ring to the same spot. And I did actually have some help, some professional help from my mother to sew a side piece on here. I don't own a sewing machine, so I had to get some help there for sure. I'll have to trim this flap, but the idea is this will just hang down, cover up those bolt holes. That's where it bolts up to the back or the base, and then this is going to tie it all in at the bottom. So should look good, but a little bit more work to do to tie this all together, and I can throw it in the car. And there you go. So everything's tied together and hog ringed. Just need to bolt that to the seat base, and the front seat will be done. Looks pretty good. For the door panels, I just used a little bit of CAD design. Cut out a cardboard shape for the front and the rear, and then obviously that works for passenger side and driver side. Flattened out some of this plastic, used that cardboard to cut the shape out of the plastic, and then I just used self-tappers to attach it to the doors, and I don't know, it doesn't actually look too bad. So I'm gonna go with that. I may end up building some strips to go, you know, on the B pillar and potentially the C pillar, just to cover that up. Obviously I got the front seat base in and the seat belts. I have rear seat belts coming yet because this car actually never came with them, but yeah, it's starting to look more and more like a car every day. There you go. Seats are in. I'm extremely happy with that. It looks so good. All right, so it's been a couple of days since I first started this video, but I have had some parts show up. I've got seat belts for the rear seat. I've got all the parts to fix my signal switch and the steering column. I can put the steering wheel on. All of my brake components have showed up. So basically, I've got everything I need except for a gauge cluster to finish the car. Now, I did rip the gauge cluster out of the 40, so I'll quickly throw that in. I might even just zip tie it in place for now because it just needs to have gauges, just needs to work for now. Interesting development though. My gauge cluster that I've had on order since April, I got an email from the company I ordered it from, not the manufacturer, but a different company, don't need to name names, canceled my order because the gauge cluster is quote unquote unavailable. Okay, fair enough. It's been on order for months and you decide to cancel it randomly. I phoned the manufacturer and they seemed a little confused by that. So somebody's lying, but whatever. They said if I ordered one today, they could have it to me by the end of August, not a problem. Unfortunately, I live in Canada and that's pretty well the end of our driving season, so I don't know if I care anymore. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit upset about it, but it doesn't matter. The 40 cluster will work. 40 can't drive right now anyway, so I'll get that thrown in. I've got some interior pieces here painted up that need to go in the car. Kind of just lines the windows and the B pillar and the A pillar. So yeah, I've got a bit of work to do. And not much time to do it. So I'm gonna get at it. I think I'm gonna start with those seat belts because I gotta take the back seat out again, get those seat belts mounted, then I'll tackle the rear brakes, and then I'm gonna jump on the column and see if I can't get that signal switch working. Then I can test all my lights. If that's all good to go, this thing will be able to go for inspection. So fingers crossed things work out, that we pass, but if that's the case, I don't see why this can't be at miles, so we'll get to it. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form endorsed or sponsored, but if you're looking for seatbelts, seatbeltplanet.com. It seemed like any of the hot rod shops, seatbelts for this car specifically were like $250 for a set. These were like $40, so that's an option. So these are the adjuster rebuild kits. I'm sure this is the problem because I don't believe those are ratcheting. Basically, when you reverse the car and apply the brakes, these are supposed to ratchet, tighten up, automatically adjust your rear brakes. I don't believe that's happening. So they're backed all the way off, which has taken up all the slack that the booster can give. They're still not applying the rear and there's nothing left to apply the front, so, or very little anyway. So that's likely what's going on. I'll get these put in, get my brakes swapped out, and hopefully this thing will have stopping power. DVSP up. And here's that trim. I just rattle canned, so all this lines the A and B pillars and the windows, front and rear, so Just clean it up a little bit. Now the seatbelt installation is pretty straightforward in this car because it was an optional extra that wasn't opted for, but you can see it's got dimples all along the floor where they would normally be drilled out and installed. So I just have to drill holes there, put some big washers and bolts in. Those seatbelts will bolt down, and then I can put the rear cushion back in. Well, that took all of 5 minutes, but rear seatbelts are in, so check that off the list. Getting close. Another thing I forgot to mention, and you would have seen it in this video, I did finish the exhaust. I opted to go further back behind the rear tire and out the side still. I'll show you a picture of that here. Just to get it away from the rear door, which makes it quite a bit quieter, and I feel like it looks a little bit cleaner. It's pretty tight under there, but it does work. So exhaust is officially done as well. That's got everything swapped over in the rear. I've got new pistons, new adjusters, new shoes, new drum, everything. So I'll do the other side, and then hopefully it'll adjust properly. I'll test it, and maybe I'll have brakes. All right, well, I've made some serious headway off camera. I've got the brakes all done, adjusted. That works good now, so that's good. I got my gauges installed from the 40, so I have temporary gauges. I just zip tied them in there. It kind of looks horrible, but they work, and that's all I need for now is just function. So good there. Steering wheel's in. Signal switch has been changed out. All of my lights function, so that's awesome. At this point, I honestly think I can send this thing for an inspection. So fingers crossed that all goes well with that. I do believe it's going to pass because, like I said before, everything's brand new except for the body. So I can't see any issues there. But we'll find out. And then, yeah, I've just got little odds and ends to button up, some trim pieces to put in. But the car is basically done. So I don't know. It's been a long time coming, but yeah, we'll get these last few things buttoned up, and the car will be done. All right, so let's talk about what we got left. Like I said, it's just real minor stuff. There's I want to cut out some more of that plastic for the sill behind in front of the rear window. I've got to mount rear view mirrors, or I should mount rear view mirrors. This car never came with them, so it technically doesn't need them, but it is nice to have. So I might do that. Got to do the windshield washer reservoir, plumb all that in. Now the last remaining kind of big issue is my transmission pan. I think I'm on my third attempt, or maybe even fourth attempt now at getting the thing to actually seal. Now I do believe my problem was the tolerance or the clearance from the cross member, the factory cross member, to that pan was millimeters. So I think what was happening is when the motor torqued over, that transmission pan was hitting that cross member, and that was kind of jarring the gasket and the pan, causing a leak. Now, I have since modified the cross member. I cut a big chunk out of it and reinforced it so that the pan clears and has lots of room to move if things rotate or whatever. But I'm waiting on another gasket and a pan that has a drain plug in it. So once I get that, I'll try again to reseal the transmission. Hopefully that was my issue and things are sealed now, or will be sealed. Because once that's done, the car's done. So I'll get this thing and we'll get that transmission sealed up. We'll get this thing sent off and inspected. If and when it passes, I'll button up those last couple of items, and I guess the next video, this car will officially be done. So hopefully we'll catch you on that one, but I'm going to end this one here. So I appreciate you guys sticking around to this point. I'm Ryan. This is 780 Speed and Custom, tuning out.
780 Speed and Custom. Thanks for watching. 780 Speed and Custom. Don't forget.